Have you ever wondered what would happen if time stood still in a city affected by one of the world's worst nuclear disasters? Let's cast our minds back to the early hours of April 26, 1986, in Pripyat, Ukraine. A catastrophic explosion at Reactor 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant sent shockwaves across the globe. The immediate impact was devastating, but what was even more unnerving was the unseen catastrophe unfolding. In the shadow of the Soviet Union's delayed reaction, the radioactive cloud from the explosion began to silently choke the city. The authorities remained tight-lipped, and the populace unknowingly went about their daily routines, oblivious to the invisible enemy in their midst. It wasn't until the next day that evacuation orders were issued, but by then the damage was done. The radioactive fallout had already seeped into the homes, the soil, and the very fabric of the city. In a matter of hours, the city of Pripyat turned into a ghost town, and life would never be the same. How does a city react when an invisible enemy silently invades their lives? Imagine the streets of Pripyat bustling with life, only to be abruptly silenced, evacuated 36 hours after the Chernobyl incident. This delay, a fateful period of uncertainty, was filled with confusion and growing fear. The inhabitants, unaware of the radioactive cloud that hung over them, were slowly exposed to its harmful effects. Meanwhile, the radioactive materials were not confined to Pripyat. They drifted across borders, permeating into other parts of Europe, bringing with them an insidious threat that many were oblivious to. And then there was the cover-up. The Soviet Union, in a desperate bid to maintain control, attempted to conceal the magnitude of the disaster. But the truth has a way of making itself known. Evidence of the disaster surfaced, revealing the extent of the catastrophe to the world. As the invisible enemy spread, the world was left in the dark, unprepared for the extent of the disaster. What happens when the dust settles after a nuclear disaster? The answer is not a simple one. It's a tale of human resilience, scientific discovery, and a sobering reminder of our responsibility to our planet and each other. In the years following the Chernobyl disaster, the effects were far-reaching and long-lasting. The immediate and most tragic consequences were the increase in cancer rates, particularly thyroid cancer, among those exposed to the radioactive fallout. The World Health Organization estimated that nearly 5,000 cases of thyroid cancer were caused by the disaster. The area surrounding the power plant, now known as the Chernobyl exclusion zone, became an uninhabited ghost land, stretching over an area of 2,600 square kilometers. The city of Pripyat, once a thriving community of nearly 50,000 residents, was abandoned overnight, left to be reclaimed by nature. In the face of such devastation, efforts were made to contain the radiation and prevent further harm. The most notable of these was the construction of the sarcophagus over Reactor 4, a colossal feat of engineering designed to encase the damaged reactor and limit the release of radioactive materials. But the legacy of Chernobyl extends beyond the physical scars left on the landscape. The disaster served as a wake-up call to the world, sparking extensive research into nuclear safety and emergency response protocols. It has shaped our understanding of the behavior of radioactive materials and their environmental impact, driving advancements in technology and procedures to prevent similar incidents in the future. The Chernobyl disaster also highlighted the importance of transparency in the face of such events. The initial secrecy and misinformation surrounding the disaster led to unnecessary exposure and risk for many. It's a stark reminder that in the world of nuclear power, truth and openness are not just ethical obligations, but a matter of life and death. The Chernobyl disaster was a tragic event that changed the world's perspective on nuclear power and highlighted the importance of transparency and preparedness in the face of such disasters. So, what have we learned from Chernobyl's haunting legacy? We've revisited the catastrophic explosion, the frantic yet delayed reaction that followed, and the long-term effects still visible today. We've acknowledged the invaluable lessons learned, propelling advancements in nuclear safety and emergency response protocols. We've seen how this tragic event shone a harsh light on the behavior of radioactive materials and their environmental impact. The events at Chernobyl serve as a stark reminder of the power we wield and the responsibility we bear when dealing with nuclear energy.